Now, it's important to remember that all the information that you write in your bids needs to be accurate. It will not be up to the client to check and make sure that you didn't lie within your bid. So you have to make sure that you write all the accurate information, and they will be able to take your bid and read it and take for granted that everything written in there is true.
Exactly. And the double N case is an example of that. What we saw in BTF, it was pretty big. It was the appraiser. Double N, it's more subtle. We were asking to, well, when I say we, the company was asking to take over garbage disposal for the city of Edmonton. To do so, they had a float of around 70 to 80 garbage trucks, and the bid asked for the garbage truck to have been made at least in 1980. The company had maybe 85% of its fleet that had been made after 1980, but had 15% of its fleet that didn't qualify because they had been made before. They were expecting to change the truck after having the contract gradually so they would lower the cost. But it was determined by the court in Edmonton that it was a very important part of the tender document because the town could not withstand the fact of having 20 or 30% of the truck at the garage on any given day. So prior to 1980, they were probably breaking a bit more and they needed more maintenance. So since they had lied on, which wasn't a lie in bad faith, they were thinking of changing the trucks and they told the city, but even though the information was not exact and they were rejected.
Now, another important element is that statements, although most statements you have to be perfectly exact, some statements will create errors that are minor irregularities, but other statements are major and can lead to the rejection of your bid. So the importance of different statements within the bid will also be taken into consideration.
And an example of that is the case of Genevard Dessau against Attorney General of Quebec. You're going to see in this case one information that was not exact but did not lead to the rejection of the tender. So Genevard and Dessau are preparing a bid to construct what we call la voie de contournement here up north of Rouyn-Noranda. And several phone calls were made. Genevard approached Stavibel to do a joint venture with them. At the end, it didn't work out, so they did it with Dessau, and they obtained the contract. But the city of Rouyn-Noranda came back and said, when there was one question in the tender asking, did you add a joint venture with another partner? And you said no, but that was false, because we know that you called and talked with Stavibel. Genevard defended themselves saying, look, we never had an actual joint venture with them. We just exchanged a couple of phone calls to see if there was interest. The proof demonstrated that that was actually what happened. And the court decided that even though they said no, they could have written in the tender that they had a couple of phone calls, but that wasn't major enough to reject their submission, and they ended up getting the contract because it really wasn't that bad.
Now, one of the major issues is if you are competent enough to carry out the work. So with anything, not only with qualifications, but also all license, permits, authorizations that you need in order to complete the work within a project for which you're bidding, you have to possess them at the moment that you submit the bid and not later on, or you can't submit a bid with the intention of sending out your approval or your papers to make sure that you get the projects in time. You have to have them at the moment that you submit the bid.
In July 2001, the Quebec Superior Court pronounced itself as what was a valid license and who had the right to ask for a license. So in the case Construction Bécon against Attorney General of Canada, what basically happened is that a bid of Bécon was turned down because they didn't have the necessary license to bid. The thing is, at first, it didn't appear that the license were essential. They were a side project. But the court decided that if the person that is giving the contract wishes to ask for those licenses, even though they are not directly linked to the project, it is in their right to do so. Even though you could argue that those licenses are not necessary, if they are asked for and you don't have them, then your tender is going to be rejected. And that's exactly what happened in that case. It was rejected.
Now, when we are normally doing bigger projects, you're going to have a multitude of different partners that get together, whether it be in the form of a joint venture, general partnership, or limited partnership, or whatever other name you want to give to the partnership. When you're submitting the bid, each and every single one of these partners have to be able to qualify themselves for the acts that they're going to be carrying out. So you can't have one partner that's going to be building the road that qualifies to build the road, but the other partner that's supposed to be building the home that doesn't have the appropriate license or CCQ permits or people that can help them carry out the work. Every single partner in the area in which they're going to be wanting to carry out the activities has to qualify according to the terms of the tender that was submitted.
And we've got the Turcon contractor case. It happened in British Columbia, and it's a classic case where Brentwood, which was one part of the joint venture of Turcon contractor, wanted to obtain a contract. They needed the tallyman of the native community where the road was being built, so there was a native company called AEC that had submission that first and was rejected. Brentwood said, well, I'm bringing expertise, I'm bringing money, we're going to try to submit another tender, both of us together in a joint venture to see if we're able to obtain the contract. Problem is what the court decided, and that went in front of the Supreme Court of Canada. They rejected the tender because the Supreme Court said, look, AEC tried by themselves once. They were turned down. You cannot bring them back by the rear door with a partnership with another company, change the name to Turcon Contractor, and try to obtain the exact same contract. We already turned them down once. So the province was able to maintain its position, and the court gave, and the court allowed the province to turn down the second tender, even though Brentwood was qualified and Brentwood was the lowest bidder.
Now, an issue that I raised a bit earlier when I was talking about Contract A and Contract B was that generally you cannot withdraw a bid that you've submitted. There are, however, exceptions, and these exceptions all refer to the date at which a bid is accepted. If you submit a bid, you will be able to withdraw it before the bid is accepted. You're going to have to act quickly because generally bids are opened and examined right away, and you have to be able to demonstrate that you're taking away your bid also in good faith. You couldn't hear that everyone else submitted or bid maybe $1 million higher than you did and that you're going to get it and you'll end up losing money. So you have to make sure that you take the bid away not only before the bid is accepted, but also that you act in good faith. For your information, we put up the terms of the Civil Code of Quebec, if you would like to read. The articles are sections 1390 to 92, where they talk about taking the bid away before it's accepted. After acceptance, it's irrevocable. You cannot take a bid away after that. Now, the next issues we're going to talk is error. I made a mistake, what can I do? There are different types of errors. The first error is an error that's going to make your bid completely null, completely void, and is going to be thrown in the garbage. Generally, these kinds of errors have something to do with consent, that you didn't understand exactly what you were agreeing to. You were bidding for a hospital, but you end up building a road. It has nothing to do with exactly what you found in the tender documents. That's about the only, on the object and on the consent that you'll be able to get out of it and get out of your bid. Financial error has been pleaded time and time again. Made a mistake, I forgot to put a number in. You saw the charts earlier on today. They're very complex. They have to take in every single issue. If you forget one, it's your problem. You should have thought of it beforehand. That's why you absolutely need to make sure that you consider every single aspect of your bid. Make your bid higher if you have to, but make sure you don't make it lower, because it is an inexcusable error.
And since we're talking about huge amount of money, then it was bound to be brought in front of court one day or another. It was in 1981 in front of the Supreme Court in the case Round Engineering. Round Engineering is pretty much the court case that we're still following to this day when it comes to financial error.